Hi everyone, my name is Ambar Priyaraj, and for a while now I've been thinking to make a video on the defense and strategic think tanks that are there in India. I believe there are very limited uh, sort of videos that are available on YouTube, and I wanted to impart this information and to circulate this information among different youth who are quite interested in strategic affairs as well as international relations, that there is something that is very appealing. There's something that invariably enhances the way you meet people, the way you study international relations, or the way you interpret strategic affairs. So, a brief about me: my name is Ambar Priyaraj, and I'm a defense aspirant as well as somebody who is quite interested in defense and strategic studies, international relations, strategic affairs. So, from a academic perspective, I've done my bachelor's in political science from Dayal Singh College, University of Delhi, and I'll appear for some more competitive examinations in the times to come. And I'm also thinking of doing my master's. However, before that, I have also cleared the UPSC NDA written examination 4 times. I've also cleared AFCAT twice, and I have also cleared CDS written examination once. Uh, Now let's dive straight into the topic as to, firstly, what is a think tank, and secondly, what is a defense and strategic studies kind of think tank. So when I started, frankly, I really thought to myself that I'll earn a lot of stipend, I'll write research papers for these think tanks, I'll also provide my insights and inputs. However, that was not the case. Initially, I joined a think tank which was very young in its as far as its life is concerned. And when I joined that policy think tank, I was exposed to a lot of writing at that point of time, as I was supposed to write short form content carousels that you see. So this think tank goes by the name Chanakya Policy and Research Foundation, and I was with them for like around 1.5 years. And by working in that organization, what I realized was that what we study academically is a lot different than what we write. So, what we are being taught in colleges and schools is fine in order to establish our knowledge base, or not particularly knowledge base, I would say, to establish theoretical knowledge. However, when it comes to practical insights, practical inputs, uh, conversations with uh, somebody who is established in the field of diplomacy, military, policy, then we certainly lack. As in most of the colleges, institutional collaboration, or for that matter, conversations, is very limited. And even if it is there, it is quite limited. So, think tanks here comes into play. Think tanks basically are organizations which bridges the gap between government as well as the general public, and it acts as a bridge, as I said earlier. And trust me when I say this, my experience have been really amazing. Uh, Before that, I'll also give a brief overview as to where all I have worked. So I've worked with the Chanakya Policy and Research Foundation. I was earlier an intern with them, and later on, I became their chief strategy and outreach officer. And I did the licensing part as well as the onboarding, or you can say HR part as well. I handled that too. Later on, I worked as a research intern with the Center for Aerospace Power and Strategic Studies. In short, it is called CAPS, and it is a think tank which is affiliated with the Indian Air Force. And right now, I'm currently working with the National Maritime Foundation, which is again affiliated with the Indian Navy, as well as it also has a lot of connections with some ministries as well as some think tanks from other countries as well as abroad. So, diving, let's dive deeper into my experiences in these think tanks separately. So when I started with the Chanakya Policy and Research Foundation, honestly, I had no clue as to what I'll write. Even though I was very interested in international relations, as to how countries interact between each other, what is the scope of the economic relations, how are the economic relations between two countries. Let's for instance take into consideration India and France, or for that matter India and Australia. How is their military and strategic cooperation between them? So these were some questions that always fascinated me, and I wanted to research on these topics. And when I joined, I realized that my writing part was not, I would say, not that impressive, because more or less I realized that in order to research, you have to accumulate a lot of information from here and there, which is there on the internet, which is there on some other think tanks, journals, or article pieces, op-eds, opinion pieces. So I used to accumulate those information, and then I used to integrate my thought and come up with something which catered to our audience. So that's how I created around 11 short form content carousels on the Chanakya Policy and Research Foundation Instagram, as well as LinkedIn channel. And subsequently, they liked my work, and I became their chief strategy and outreach officer, which was a very good opportunity for me to interact with other officers, as well as from the fields of academics, from the fields of diplomacy, military, and policy. And later on, I realized that there were some drawbacks as far as this think tank was concerned. I realized that there was, I think, there was some sort of loophole as far as training is concerned, as far as timing to engage with the interns is concerned. So in that part, I specifically realized that they could have given some more guidance, mentorship, and attention as to how to write an article, as to how to write an opinion piece or an op-ed or a policy brief if there's one. However, still, there were a lot of practical insights that I got from CPRF, and we went on to organize this flagship summit of theirs. It's called Chanakya Diplomatic Summit, and I made a lot of friends there. I served as the chief advisor, and we worked on a lot of aspects like logistics, like you can say the marketing part as well, the sponsorship part. Even though it was quite difficult for us to get sponsors, however, still we pulled off that summit with greater enthusiasm, I would say. Kudos to all the team members as well as the co-founders. And after organizing that summit, I realized that there's a lot of scope, and there's a lot of credibility these think tanks hold if given due importance. Like for example, I visited the Ministry of Defense twice. I basically helped them to onboard one of our advisors, whom I have the privilege to take his podcast years back when I was associated with a student podcast channel. And it also enhanced a lot of soft skills inside me too. It is not like I was not good at communication skills. I was good. However, still I developed fluency in that aspect. And I also had the opportunity to visit the Ministry of External Affairs, particularly its Policy Planning and Research division. And we met the Joint Secretary who sits at the Ministry of External Affairs, and we were able to convince her that we are organizing so and so seminar, particularly a summit come MUN, which was in the form of a Model United Nations. And she was quite satisfied. We also visited the, you can say, there's a body inside the Ministry of External Affairs. It's called ICWA, which is also kind of a think tank. ICWA stands for Indian Council of World Affairs. And we met the acting DG at that point of time, and she was also satisfied. And there were a lot of cross-institutional collaborations. Like we also visited the Chakra Dialogues Foundation, which is also an emerging think tank. and I got to meet a lot of officers, both from the field of military as well as diplomacy. So it was quite an experience. From then on, I always had this thing in my mind as to how to apply in a defense think tank. So as I live in a cantonment area, and I was always fascinated by this one think tank. So before I went on to explain, I'll just explain what are some of the defense think tanks in India. So these ranges from service specific think tanks to broader strategic level think tanks. So if I talk about service specific think tanks, then we have the Center for Land and Warfare Studies, also called CLAWS, Center for Joint Warfare Studies, abbreviated as CINJOS, as well as the USI, which is the oldest think tank of India. It's called United Service Institution of India. And these three that I have just mentioned, these are all army think tanks. And then we have the Center for Aerospace Power and Strategic Studies, in short CAPS, which is for the Air Force. And then we have the National Maritime Foundation, where I'm currently working, which caters to the which is affiliated by the Indian Navy. And apart from that, there are some other think tanks. There are some think tanks based on broader strategic level engagements, like the Observer Research Foundation. And then we have something called ORCA, which specifically deals with Chinese issues and matters. And somebody who's interested in Chinese matters can, look forward to joining the ORCA, Organization for Research on China. I believe it's its full form. And then moving on to some other think tanks which are there: Center for Policy Research and Governance, specifically for policy. And then certainly there are some other think tanks which are there in India, because think tank culture, I believe, is on the rise. And that is why I chose to make a video on this. However, as defense aspirants, I have realized that most of us study very blatantly. Most of us don't get much guidance as far as strategic affairs is concerned. And let me be very assuring in that sense that these defense think tanks which are there provide a lot of information, a lot of resources, and a lot of knowledge base as far as joining the armed forces is concerned. So for defense aspirants, it is a must recommended thing that I would personally recommend to all after working in three think tanks and presently working in the third one. And so let us move on to my experience at CAPS. So firstly, when I joined CAPS, I felt very grateful because I always wanted to work at the intersection of strategic affairs as well as air power. And the accumulation of both of this was something that I always looked up to. And when I joined the Center for Aerospace Power and Strategic Studies, I was exposed to a good amount of exposure to air power terms, to aerospace, to the different aspects and attributes that are there, which goes into play. We had a research capsule there. We were taught different aspects, like we were taught the Indian Air Force doctrine, what it actually says, what it means to convey, and we also studied about different aspects related to the aerospace power, as well as some other aspects. There I researched, I wrote a paper which was more in a technical sense. It's related to drones and aircrafts. My title of the research paper, which is not yet published, however, I'm still working on that, but it was certainly, my efforts were appreciated at that point of time. My research paper's title was Manned Unmanned Teaming System as a catalyst for air power transformation, operations, operational implications, as well as applications. It covered those topics. And I also wrote a book review and presented the book review in front of the faculty there. And let me tell you that the faculty and the defense think tanks, as far as I have seen, involves a mix of both civilian scholars as well as defense personals. So my book review was based on the book The Dragons and the Snakes: How the Rest Learned to Fight the West. It was authored by Mr. David Kilcullen, and I presented my book review at that point of time as well, which was appreciated. and also my research paper I presented in front of the faculty members. So it was one, I would say, hell of an experience in that sense, and I got to learn a lot. We also organized a lot of seminars. There were a lot of seminars in which we as interns were required to assist them, were required to support them, the faculty as well as the members over there. Like for example, I believe that there was a seminar that was conducted by CAPS at the India Habitat Center. The seminar was based on India-Pakistan relations and its assessment, both internal as well as external security. And it was attended by a lot of dignitaries from across the field of diplomacy as well as military. One highlight of that seminar was that I got to see and meet the former Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Pandey, and the Vice Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Anil Khosla was also there, and there were some other dignitaries from the field of diplomacy. So it was I would say it was an experience par, I think words cannot suffice, because what I saw there was something that I always looked up to. It was an enriching experience. There was a lot of dialogue and deliberation. There was a lot of dialogues between, a lot of dialogues between these people and these professionals and domain experts and subject matter experts. So it was another level experience. And then we move on to organize a seminar at the Jaswant Hall Auditorium, which is there inside the Air Force Station, New Delhi. There itself, I got to meet and see the former Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Rakesh Kumar Singh Bhadauria, and we went on to organize the flagship event of the Center for Aerospace Power and Strategic Studies. It's called the Subroto Mukherjee Seminar, which is based on the name of the first Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Air Force, Air Marshal Subroto Mukherjee. And trust me when I say this, it was a very extremely enriching experience, because I got to meet the present Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh, and we had an interaction as part of our internship. So you see, there's a lot of things that goes on in these defense think tanks, and I felt really grateful that I could talk to the chief. In fact, I also met. I have met 3 service chiefs, and it was an experience that I will always remain indebted to CAPS for this. And the faculty over there was extremely friendly, and the guidance that I got there is something that I always looked up to, because whenever we had doubts as interns, we were free to get those doubts addressed. And certainly I made a lot of friends and a lot of capable people. I met a lot of capable people who were thorough intellectual and were from different universities across India. So it was a great experience in that sense. When I left CAPS after completing my internship, I really felt emotional, because by then I had developed a great bond with my friends as well as my mentors. So as far as the mentors were concerned, I personally was very attracted and influenced by the way the faculty over there, the uniformed personnel, spoke. Like for example, our officer in charge, Wing Commander Raja sir, or for that matter, my own mentor, Wing Commander Vikas Kalyani sir, whom I've always been grateful towards, because he guided me a lot in that sense. And the Additional Director General of CAPS, Air Vice Marshal Ashish Vohra sir, the DG sir itself, Air Vice Marshal Anil Golani sir, as well as Group Captain Nayak sir, whom I was very grateful, because he had a lot of insights and inputs that he also gave me as part of the feedback. And I was also grateful to the civilian scholars and faculty members over there, and Wing Commander Akash Godbole sir, who was extremely passionate about teaching us about the air power doctrine. So it was a good experience in that sense. When I moved on from that, I realized that my knowledge about maritime affairs, or for that matter, my exposure towards the Indian Navy was comparatively and considerably less. So I thought, why not to apply in National Maritime Foundation? However, it was not my thought. I was influenced by one of the interns and who became a good friend later on, whom I met at CAPS. He went by the name Shreesh Sharma. I'm quite sure he might be seeing this video. So he guided me and he recommended me that, Amber, you should also do an internship with the NMF, National Maritime Foundation. And subsequently, I applied, thinking that I might get selected or I might not. If I don't get selected, then I'll probably carry on with some other think tanks. But then I got selected, fortunately, and my time I have spent around 1 week so far at National Maritime Foundation, and it has been really amazing. So at these defense think tanks, you, or for that matter, policy level think tanks or border strategic level think tanks, you get to network a lot. You get to meet all those dignitaries. You get to interact with scholars who have done extremely brilliant in their fields, who are thorough intellectuals and domain experts. So in that sense, you get to have a lot of exposure, and you get, you get to make a lot of friends there who can be, who can be of great importance to you as far as your cognitive intelligence is concerned, as far as your general intelligence is concerned. Because when you get to meet and interact with them, you realize that they bring an experience of their own sort. So they come from different universities, they have a lot of other experiences. You come from a different university, you have a different type of experience, and when you interact, you have, exchange of thoughts, and there's a angle of scientific temperament, I would say, because some of them are also from the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So they bring their own perspective about the emerging technologies that are there. So in that sense, it's a very enriching experience. And needless to say that you build on to those experiences. You write, firstly, you have to write a lot in these think tanks. You have to read a lot, because they have a lot of resources, and every day there's a new information coming in. So don't let it pile up. You have to have, you have to read all these things, and you have to subsequently manage your academics with your internship. So it is a must thing, I would say, in that sense. So coming back to what I wanted to convey through this video is that it is equally important that we develop a critical perspective, a critical outlook towards these issues. It may be international relations, it may be strategic affairs, it may be something related to the defense affairs of India. So think tanks, I believe, is a pretty good platform which fosters dialogue, deliberations. It also teaches you. It also has a lot of scope for. It has a lot of scope as far as interactions are concerned with domain experts. So you never lag behind in that sense. Plus, after a certain extent, you also get to receive a modest stipend, even though initially it is less, but the more you research, the more you write, you get to learn a lot through these think tanks. So I believe I have developed a lot of networking in that sense, and it has always been an enriching experience. I will probably make a lot of other videos on this matter, and I believe I'll regularly post more videos on this channel. I'll particularly delve and dive deeper into certain aspects that I have not covered in this video. So do like this video, and put down any comments that you think is necessary or I have missed, which I'll cover in the later videos. And also subscribe to this channel if you feel that I've added something that is not I believe there on YouTube as of yet, because there are researchers who are researching, who are doing pretty, good job in their field. However, this think tank culture in India, and how it's not being talked about a lot on channels like YouTube. So I hardly find any videos or any people talking about these defense think tanks. So I believe that in that sense I can create a little bit of awareness, because I have worked at the hem of these think tanks, and I'm continuously working on that as well. And as also I'm a defense aspirant, so I believe I can cater to the needs of the defense aspirants who want to gain an all-encompassing perspective and knowledge on defense matters. And let me tell you that I'm not confined to only defense matters. I would be equally happy to address international relation issues and perspectives, because I'm also a student of international relations, as I have studied it as one of the subjects in my graduation at one of these semesters. So thank you for listening till here. I'd be looking forward to your comments, and have a great day.